Hey, what is going on? Welcome back to the vlog. It's my first session of 2023. What better way to start it than by heading up to Best Bet Jacksonville and playing on their live stream. And I'm going to take a step up and play the 2-5 deep stack. This is a $1,500 max buy-in. There's 8 people at the table. Almost everybody's bought in for the max. So this is by far the largest game I've ever played in, and it's going to play a little larger. As the game started, Hunter asked if we wanted to do a round of straddles, and everybody immediately said yes. Now, I prefer to straddle from the button. I don't really like straddling from under the gun, but I was game. After that first orbit took place, the game was just decided it was going to be a 2-5-10 all night. In fairness, I had the opportunity to say no, but you don't want to be that one guy at the table who's not straddling and not playing the higher stakes. So, tonight, we're playing 2-5-10.
There you see the return of Andy, who has his poker vlog, 7-card flush. Usually we've seen him playing the 2-2 live streams, but today he's like, you know what? I want to bump it up a little bit. I want to play some 2-5 on the live stream today. So his second hand, he gets king, queen suited. And it looks like no one else has anything to come along with him. So easy scoop for Andy.
Andy, this is my first time ever seeing him live.
Yeah,
and meeting him in person.
Yeah.
But yeah, Andy always pops up in the YouTube chat. Obviously has his own YouTube and everything.
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, and
Very cool guy.
I think our location is becoming a second home.
About 40 minutes in, we're in the straddle. We see under the gun open for $30. We then see calls from +1 in the cutoff. When the action gets to me, I look down at 7-8 of clubs, so I call as well. We're off to a flop 4 ways. The flop is king 5-9 rainbow, so I flopped a gut shot straight draw. I start with a check, and under the gun continues for $100. It folds back to me, and there's no club on the board, which isn't great, but I don't want to give the impression you can just c-bet me offhand, so I call looking to improve. The turn's a queen of clubs. I didn't improve. I check again, and under the gun rips it for $319. So it's $320 to win $690. It's not a great price to chase my draw, and I eventually fold. In the next hand, we see an open from Kurt and under the gun to $50. It folds around to me in the small blind, and I look down at Jack 10 of hearts. I'm out of position, so I should probably raise, but Kurt's already invested about 30% of his stack, so I'm just not sure a re-raise ever gets a fold here as much as I'd like it to, so I end up just calling. Everybody else folds. We're off to a flop heads up. The flop is 6-7-8 rainbow, so I flop myself a gut shot with 2 overs. I check it over to Kurt. Not surprisingly, he puts his last 150 in the pot. I'm live against ace-x hands, and if he has a pair, I have plenty of out, so I make the call. The board runs out, and we hit a jack on the river, which seems great, but Kurt rolls over jack 8 for 2 pair, and he wins this one. In this next hand, we see a raise from Steven and under the gun to $50. The action folds back to me in the straddle, and I look down at ace-king offsuit. I put in the 3-bet to $150.
Andy's got ace-king, and he's going to raise it. 3-bets it to $150, does Andy.
See if Andy could get some run good going his way. Hasn't had the best of luck earlier on.
Yeah, a little bit of a rocky start for him.
It's back on Steven, who opened very light here, and he can't call, and he ends up folding, but I get to win one. In the next hand of the night, it folds all the way to me in the small blind, and we look down at Jack 10 of hearts. Being out of position, I put in the raise to $40. We see the big blind and the straddle both call, so we're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is 8-9-10 with 2 clubs, so I've got an open-ended straight draw to go along with my pair, and I don't want to give up the betting lead, so I fire for $60. We see a call from the big blind. Action on Gypsy in the straddle, who flopped the world here, and he bumps it up to $150.
Andy with top pair, open-ended, obviously never going away.
There are no hearts on the board, but I think my hand is still pretty strong, and I have my pair to fall back on, so I call. The big blind folds. We're off to a turn heads up. The turn is a 6 of spades, so it does not improve me. I slow down and check, and I'm kind of surprised when Gypsy checks behind. The river is a very interesting jack of diamonds, so now I've made 2 pair with 4 to the straight on the board. I'm not sure how many queens my opponent shows up with here, and I think I might actually have the best of it, so I fire for $200. I'm snapped off. We roll it over, and we're given the bad news, and our stack is just wasting away. In this next hand, it folds all the way around to me in the cutoff, and I look down at ace-7 of hearts. A pretty standard pre-flop strategy dictates that you should be raising or folding. Calling gets you into trouble. With that being said, I elected to just call. We also see the button called, the big blind, and the straddler check, so we're off to a flop multi-way. The flop is Jack Deuce 3 with 2 hearts, so I flop the nut flush draw. It checks to the button, who puts out a bet of $20. We then see calls from the big blind and the straddler, and the action's on me now. I have a flush draw and I have a backdoor wheel draw. I don't think this board connects with anybody, so I think I need to be raising here. But in the moment, I make a mistake and I just flat. I think my logic was if I raise and get called, I'm going to have to jam any turn, and my hand isn't that strong. However, calling is a bad option here, but that's what I did. We're still 4 ways to the turn. The turn is a 3 of diamonds, so it brings in a second flush draw, but it feels like a blank. It checks to me, and I make another mistake here, and I end up just checking. It's on Steven in the button, and he fires another bet. It folds back to me, and I should have jammed before, so why not jam now? I do, and I get snapped off. Steven rolls over Queen 3, and we desperately need a heart, which we do not get on the river, and we lose another one, and we get felted.
Looks like Andy is going to reload back into the weekend wallet.
So, about an hour in, I'm down $1,000. Sweet. Somehow there's no straddle this hand. We see it fold to the hijack, who limps, before Hunter on the button raises to $25. It folds to me, and we look down at King Queen offsuit. Though I'm down about $1K, I can't play scared, and I bump it up to $60. Both the hijack and the button calls, we're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is King Deuce 5 rainbow, so we have top pair. I'm first to act, and I check for a little bit of deception. I want to let somebody else bet with a worse hand. Unfortunately, William checks his worst king, and Hunter checks behind, so we're off to the turn. The turn is a 5 of diamonds. It pairs the board, and it brings in a diamond draw. I missed value on the flop, so this time I bet $125. On William, and that's actually what he has left, so he calls all in, which ends up pricing Hunter in with his flush draw, so we're still 3 ways to the river. The river is a 4 of diamonds, so that backdoor flush draw completes. I don't love this card, and I decided to check, hoping to get to showdown.
All right, and just like I say, Andy is running good. Just not running it. Oh, not running good at all. Ew.
Ew.
Ew. This is Hunter's show.
Hunter has other ideas, though, and he fires for $150. The action's on me, and I'm getting like 5 to 1, so of course I call here.
Yeah, the backdoor flush.
Wow, and yeah, Andy hates it.
Yeah, Andy probably thinks he didn't bet enough, but I think that was a great bet. Just Hunter caught a lot of equity on the turn.
You did.
Just another tough break.
For those that don't know, Hunter is
We're in under the gun this hand, and we look down at King Queen offsuit. We put in the raise to $40. Folds all the way around to Hunter in the big blind, who calls with pocket 6s. On Jack in the straddle, and he repops it to $150. It's back on me, and Jack's raise feels a lot like a squeeze. There's no point in flatting here. If I do, there's going to be like $300 in the pot, and I'll have roughly $500 behind. If I miss the flop, then I'm going to be in trouble, and so I decided to use my image as a fairly tight player, and I 4-bet rip it. Hunter folds, and it's back on Jack, and as we can see, he has me crushed. That is bad news. The good news is he's taking his time with this decision. Though Jack has a big stack in front of him, he's been fairly tight himself, getting most of the chips in 3 big hands. The longer he tanks on this, the better I feel. Of course, I don't know that I'm absolutely crushed here. He takes another look at his cards, and I think he's going to fold. Nope. He continues to think. Eventually, Jack ends up making the fold, and we pick up a little bit of momentum with this hand. We're on the button in this hand. We see +1 open for $50. It folds all the way around to me, and I look down again at Ace-King offsuit. I go a little bit larger with my raise as I'm trying to get unstuck, and I bump it up to $175. It folds back to the original raiser who calls, so we're off to a flop heads up. The flop is 5-4-3 with 2 spades, so I have a wheel draw and a backdoor flush draw. It checks to me, and being down piles and knowing this board shouldn't connect with either of us too well, I get a little bit gun shy and I check behind. The turn is a 3 of hearts, and so it pairs the board. Kurt checks again, and now I feel like I have no idea where I'm at in this hand, so again, I just check. The river is an ace of spades, so I have top pair, but it brings in the flush. Kurt wastes no time firing for $150. With the flush coming in, I elect to just flat here. Kurt shows ace-jack, and we get to scoop another one in our direction.
Ace-king plays.
In this next hand, it folds to me in +1, and I look down at pocket kings. I struggle with my chips here, but eventually I get a raise to $40 out. It folds to Gypsy on the button who calls. Everybody else folds, so we're off to a flop heads up. The flop is king 7-6, so we flop top set. With it being a rainbow board, I elect to check, looking for the button to bet, but he checks behind. The turn is a deuce of hearts, it's a blank. It's time to go for some value here, so I fire for $50. The button very quickly calls, and so I put him on a middling pair or maybe a straight draw. We're off to the river. The river is a 3 of spades. It feels pretty safe. I check the river to allow Gypsy to take a stab at it, and he does for $120. It's on me, and we're going to put the raise in, and I choose a pretty big size, $400. I feel it could look a little bluffy, plus I'm trying to get unstuck, so I've got to go for max value. As you can see, there's no way he can call here and he folds, but once again, we get to scoop some chips. About 2.5 hours in, it folds all the way to the button who bumps it up to $40. We see a call from Jack in the small blind. I'm in the big blind, and I look down at ace-10 offsuit. I think there's merit to raising here, but in the moment, I elect to just call, and that brings along Johannes in the straddle, so we're off to a flop 4 ways. The flop is ace-4 deuce, all spades, so we flop top pair and a flush draw on this monotone board. It checks to me, and I actually check, looking to check raise, but of course, it checks all the way around. The turn is a 10, so we've turned top 2. It checks to me, and now I need to bet for value, and so I fire for $60. Johannes flats in the straddle, which is a great play by him. On Hunter, and he bumps it up to $225. Jack folds, and it's back on me, and given how I'm running, I'm not crazy about this monotone board. I don't think a re-raise will get a king or a queen of spades to fold, so I just go with the call. It's on Johannes, and as you can see, he has a monster, and once again, he elects to flat, so we're 3 ways to the river. The river is a 5 of diamonds, so it puts a 4-liner to the straight, but whoever has a 3 here. I elect to check, looking to check call a reasonable bet. Surprisingly, after all that great play on the turn, Johannes checks, and it ends up checking around. I think I'm good here, and I roll it over, but as you can see, we're not good. We lose another one.
Set of 4s, wow.
Nice hand from Johannes.
And Johannes was able to dodge all that. Andy had so much going for him there, too. Ugh.
2 streams ago, I made mention of the grossest slow roll I've ever seen, but I didn't actually put it in the vlog. Well, there was a grosser slow roll. I'm going to let you guys watch it.
I got nuts. How are you with slow rolls?
Oh, no.
Oh, wow,
no,
and he
the
made top
9.
set.
Wow, are you serious? Oh.
Wait, it's an ace. It's an ace.
Oh, my God, it is an ace.
We need an ace.
What does Jacob do?
He's good.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
this
my
slow
God.
roll.
You got to be kidding me.
Oh no.
For real.
He shows it.
Wow.
That's 3 people slow rolling, man.
For the record, slow roll me like that, and I'm flipping the table. Luckily, Jack was a good sport. In the final hand of the night, the straddle is actually moved to the button. The big blind tries to raise, but he only throws a single chip out, which always acts as a call. But don't worry, under the gun says he'll take care of it, and he bumps it up to $50. It folds to me, and I look down at ace-king offsuit. I think this is a standard 4-bet spot, and I bump it up to $200.
So Andy is going to raise it to 200, 3-bets it with ace-king.
Yep,
He's
Carl
had
with
ace-king quite a few times tonight.
Let's see if it's good.
Yeah, I don't recall if it's ever worked out for him.
It folds back to Carl, who asks what I have behind, and then he eventually calls, so we're off to the flop heads up. The flop is queen 8-4 with 2 clubs, so I've kind of missed here. Carl checks, and rather than betting, I decide to go ahead and check and take the free card. Now, that's stupid. I'm the 3-better and probably need to fire almost any flop and apply some real pressure, but in this instance, I checked. The turn is a queen of hearts. It pairs the board. Carl then fires on this card for $150. I think this is a great card for him to bluff on, and if he turned to queen, I would think he'd check to allow me to bluff at it. At the time, I didn't think a flush draw would fold to a raise, so once again I elected just flat. Now, looking back, that might be flawed logic, but in real time I elected to just call. We're off to the river. The river is a 4 of spades, a very interesting card as it double pairs the board and both flush draws miss. That doesn't slow Carl down though, and he jams for 620 effective. It's back on me, and this is just a 6 spot. At the time, the bet felt very polarizing, and given the preflop action, I think I can rule out pocket 4s, so I have it narrowed down to 2 hands, either a queen or a missed flush draw. I think he can have a lot of ace-x of clubs hands, like ace-king of clubs, ace-jack of clubs, maybe even ace-5 of clubs, and at worst, I'm chopping with those hands. Something inside me says a queen doesn't play this way. For a moment, I think it could be pocket jacks, but I don't think a hand like jacks wants to bet this board. I am absolutely stumped here. You might think, go with your gut, but my gut's saying, I don't know. I often find myself in these situations, and spots like this separate good players from wreck players. If I'm right here, even though it's a chop, this will totally shift the momentum for me and give me some real confidence about my reads. I've been in the tank for a while, and I have to make a decision. YOLO.
And he does make the call. Oh, man. 10s are going to be good. Ooh, big pot going the way of Carl's.
I know a lot of you will look at this and say, what did you expect? You called with ace high. You had no pair. But it was just one of those situations where I really felt like this could have been a bluff and that he was trying to push me off a chop, or I may have even had the winning hand. I gave it a hell of an effort tonight, but it's just not my night. So I decided to pack it up and make the long drive back home to Orlando. Not the way we wanted to start the year, as we booked the biggest loss we've ever had in a session, $2,000. If you're still watching, thanks so much for sticking around. If you enjoy, like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more poker content. And you can follow me on Instagram at 7cardflushpoker.